All right, good morning. Good. All right, good morning, everybody. It's August 19th, 2024, 9:30 a.m. This is the Tax Committee, Planning and Zoning.
Goodluck.
Here.
Ferguson. Here. Dugat.
Here. I guess we're going to do the agenda. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any public comments this morning? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to discussion and action on the wind ordinance. Dive right into it. You're going to see we have multiple copies that we're going to put together today and work on. My thought is for the day, if we could just get the wind ordinance done, or closer, actually, that would be nice, but move on that today. My thought is next week we have another special meeting, solar, and then the final meeting, a regular scheduled meeting, do the BESF if we get a public hearing between that. That is, if we can find time for all of this. But I would like to start with one thing and move through it piece by piece. Yeah, Kathleen's got it.
Oh.
Let's start with you, Kathleen, on the wind ordinance. We can go through it, mark out some of the capital letters and whatnot needs to be done.
Well, you had already done some of that, so
I
we don't need to,
did.
do we need to go through all of those, or since they're just
I don't have that paperwork in front of me.
grammatical?
That's why we'll probably have to go through it all still to make sure that it's done correctly in one solid ordinance.
Okay.
Doug had them all. Doug's wife sick, so he was in IMH the night before or last night. Now they're on the Carl Clinic, and he's not available to be here. But yeah, I don't mind going through this piece by piece. That way we have a chance to swallow it.
The ordinance that Kathy had on her.
Kim, that's the one that's right there, and she's done.
So I just had a couple of general questions, just.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Mind just educating me a little bit?
No, go on. It's what we're here for.
So this is, it's called the siding ordinance,
Yes.
and it fits, I assume, between the building permit process that ties into.
It does.
this. Yeah. So the objective is that an applicant comes away with a conditional use permit from going through this process. Is that right? Or
At this point, yes, they would be.
Right.
But,
not
well,
quite right, so what?
Purpose of this is that they secure the approval of the county board. The county board has to plan to say so.
right.
In order for them to direct, with all conditional use permits, it has to be approved by the county. I think there's a distinction there that what you're saying
It's not like a building permit, but it has it's
This
separate.
allows them to go get their building permits.
is,
Yes.
Okay.
Now, Douglas Township has a separate from what we have. That stays intact?
Yeah.
This doesn't, that stays intact.
until they decide otherwise.
Okay.
That's what Mr. Devine ruled. Correct? That's what it is. Until somebody higher up decides otherwise, I guess.
Thank you.
All right, so let's do this, Kathy. I'm just going to keep on going. We're going to go
Right.
when you're ready. You can look up on the screen too if you want to do that.
So on page 5 is my next comment.
Okay.
Um, So financial assurance, we're requiring cash in escrow, no bonding, no local letters, credit,
Correct.
it's all cash?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to confirm that
And-
because sometimes bonding is allowed and,
The reason behind that is that you have a solid lock.
Yeah.
And it's not 5 different companies down the road. Oh, it's good.
okay,
That plus the fact that a bond and a letter of credit is only worth the paper it's printed on.
Right.
They don't pay the renewal premiums.
right,
They don't issue
right.
50-year letters of credit. to the
Understood.
bank,
I just- No, they're renewal annually and they always require some kind of a note behind them and security and,
That's why
Yeah.
we require cash.
yeah, okay.
Cash is king.
Absolutely.
I have, can I interrupt you?
Just more than one.
Sure.
I have a question about page 5, there, section D, paragraph D. And that paragraph is different than the definition that's included in the solar ordinance. And I thought that one of the objectives of all this exercise is to get both ordinances somewhat identical or, you know,
Yeah,
so forth. So I'm wondering why is paragraph or subparagraph, whatever you call it, D, they're different than the same paragraph definition in the solar ordinance.
or,
To me, we should simply choose which one we like the best. Three ordinances.
okay, I give, what's the difference?
You're going off,
Going off of what you had sent out on the email.
right, and I'm going off on
The definition, the wording wasn't exactly.
facility owner and
What's different? You know, can you identify what's different? Just kind of scanned it and didn't see.
This one, I have a copy of your.
you tell me the difference in solar and
I
wind.
made these notes off of mine. I think the one in the wind is a little more.
Yeah, that's something I see.
That's, yeah, that's. Let's see the difference, yeah. Wind and solar. I see the CWEF for wind,
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
CWEF for solar.
that's understandable.
Regardless of whether you know what I'm seeing now, either the entity or the person. Is that what you're talking about right there?
Well, I just, I don't have the solar one here with me, that Cassie has,
I do, I'm sorry. I said, yeah.
but when I read through them, I felt like that there was a difference there, and I was wondering why that would be the case.
I think this last meeting we had, we talked about this. Depends on how, usually when you go after the person, numero uno, usually it happens faster if you go up to the entity. It could take a chain of command to get something done. As I remember our discussion was.
I guess looking at this, they are pretty much the same, so I'm not sure where I got that from.
Well, I'm not gonna ask you now, between all of us, what would we rather do? We'd rather go towards, as you look at it, you wanna go after the entity, or do you wanna go after the person who's involved in requiring the necessary rights permits? What would be better in everybody's thoughts here?
I think the way this wording is what here is that it's intended to be somewhat all encompassing.
Okay.
That's,
I wonder if it's entity or person
You and or.
and
We could
or.
do that too, I just wanna, I don't know everybody else's views on this.
I mean, Scott Lodge could come in here and say, well, I'm gonna apply for this, and I've got all the people signed up, and he could go ahead and get all that done with the intention that as soon as he got to that point, he's gonna sell it out to another company.
Right.
And I don't think there's anything that we can do to say that it's illegal or.
No. But then do we want to put a person and or entity? I mean, I want everybody in agreement on this. You know, everybody's worked hard on this and we're just trying to keep moving forward with it. Scott, do you have any input on this? What would your, I mean,
I would just say person or entity. Move on.
person and or entity?
The only thing that might disqualify a person to some extent is that when you get into the application, we're requiring them to demonstrate the financial wherewithal to be able to do the whole project.
I don't know.
So, I mean, from that standpoint, unless Scott's got a couple $1 billion sitting away someplace, he's probably not gonna be able to meet that requirement. Whatever, I mean, whatever the cost of building this thing and getting it going is. I don't think we really have a good handle on what that is, but it could, other than it depends on the size of the facility as well.
Well, I think with the size of the facility, what's gonna be, you're gonna have companies, you're not gonna have individuals either showing up for this.
But the person could also have some financing arrangement with some person that's gonna take care of it.
Let's go entity and or person. Are you okay with that?
Could be the best.
Yeah,
Way to go.
sounds good to me.
Make a motion to have them change that. Okay.
And then that'll be the same in all three.
We'll get to the rest of them. We're
All
just gonna do them one at a
Just
time.
here, okay.
I'm gonna swallow this very slowly. That way everybody's on the same page
Got it.
today. All right, so I'll ask this. John, since you brought up, did you have anything before page 5 that you saw?
The next thing I have is on page 11.
Okay, Kathleen, I know we went through this and there's a bunch of letters that we were changing. Make them all capitalized and make them,
Yeah, so do we need to go over each of those separately?
and let's just work it up to page
Okay.
5.
Okay.
I remember doing them all too and sending them to Doug, but Doug's, so.
So then in L is occupied community building, capitalizing the CMB.
L is what? I didn't.
Is that there?
No, I'm following the regular ordinance. So the one sheet. You know what, that'd be easier for me to follow this. All right, so I'll follow 3 different state ordinances and try to figure out which one is the correct one we're gonna keep going through. If you've got hers already, let's go ahead and just keep using hers. I'm gonna go back here for a moment. I know you've wrote it down. And then also we went to just now. Where's it at? Facility owner, we're gonna leave that as person and or entity, is that correct? Okay, entity. Okay, and then we left that one alone. Let's jump into here, I'm with you. Go ahead, Kathleen, I'm with you.
And then on L, so
Mhm.
capitalizing the C and the
Yep.
B by community voting. And then I thought instead of CWEF owner, it should be facility owner. Isn't that the definition we just did? Is that correct?
Keep hopping around. John, you got that one, don't you, Scott, or do I?
Got it up, I have one.
It's right here, I'm sorry.
He omitted the one about the occupied community building.
What I'm trying to do is go
My
through.
copy here is all black now too.
It's highlighted.
Instead of making any more confusion for myself, especially, I'm gonna have us go through it, and then we'll go through what Scott gave us and look at that, and see if there's any more differences.
Okay.
I'm just gonna have to revise it over and over. Scott Ravinsky, sorry, Scott. Go ahead, Kathleen. So you put the participating property as real property, so written agreement between a CWEF owner.
Is that the same as a facility owner?
It's not exactly the same. I believe we have a definition, don't we?
Definition, it says the facility owner is the owner of the CWF, so I would say they're the same.
Yeah, it'd be the same. Thank you.
It could be either way, whatever you prefer.
And obviously, you got participating property, you got it capitalized.
In N and O.
I think to go back to N, one of the reasons, say, change CWEF owner to facility owner is that in the next sentence, it refers to the facility owner, so. Be confusing to have different titles for the same person. or entity.
Okay, so then under primary structure, so this was kind of bigger picture and not in the weeds. I think we got a couple categories of things. One is correcting the things like definitions, and other is just a question. So on primary structure, what I'm wondering is why we're only including the residents and not outbuildings that might be affected. So I'm thinking, barns, livestock sheds, livestock barns, anything like that. We're saying that we only care about the setback from the residents. Is that?
Correct.
I don't know that there's an answer for that, but I know that ever since we've had an ordinance, which is 7 years,
Okay,
I mean, it has to be that way. I don't think there's any state requirement that covers it.
okay. I was just curious. I think you looked at this, but other counties have counted some of the outbuildings for setbacks. I think that's,
I mean, unattached garage is even right by the house.
usually it is.
Generally, even though they're unattached, so
Yeah.
that should be, I mean, yeah.
At least that.
And my question would be, what's your definition of attached garage?
Of an unattached garage.
No, I'm just being honest with you.
Yeah, I know.
That's how
it
far
could
you
be.
look into
I
this,
know.
because
Right. I mean, I know what we.
we're not
do.
lawyers, and I'm trying to,
Yeah,
and I'm okay with something putting in here, because I know like livestock could be an issue. But I mean, follow the code.
You want to include those things, and you just need to take the word excludes and replace it with it.
Simple enough.
Yeah, but then you don't want hunting sheds.
Why not?
I don't see the original motion. If we're gonna do that, I say we cross out the hunting sheds. I mean, seriously, that's. Pool house is usually next to the house. Storage sheds are. Be a lot. I think we should leave it, but if you want to go ahead and change it, that's up to this committee. I'm not just the only one here.
I think probably the reason it's written the way it is that the intent was that residents with the primary focus of running the fire setbacks and that is.
So one thing I was looking at is that I think the primary structure was only, maybe only used for the non-participating properties. Or no, the participating properties, that's right. Because if you were non-participating, the setback was based on your property line. But if you were participating, you kind of take the risk that it's only gonna be, the setback only has to be from your house, and that's, you choose to participate in that manner, right?
That's
We're not
correct, that's
imposing
correct,
this-
but originally, see, this ordinance, as you can tell, has been amended many times. And it's reasonable that we would expect this to be amended many times going into it. And always find something. I think at the time that this was put in there, the residence was where the setback was being measured from, not the property line. So when it was changed to the property line, this was not changed. So your point is probably correct.
I'm trying to find that setback.
You'd have to find a setback from the ordinances that go back.
So let's just go ahead and finish up with P. Are we changing it or are we not changing it? We're gonna change it, we're gonna put in there, indoor, take out. Yeah, we talk primary structures.
Hunting shed shouldn't be in there, we're gonna change it, don't think.
So we just want to put it primary structure, exclude structures as hunting sheds and barns. I mean, and if we're gonna do barns, we do it just with barns with livestock? Or is it just gonna be barns?
I think when you read the first two sentences of that, you can see that the intent is a little different.
Right.
That's not going to be, that's the way it is.
Okay.
Never come up, to my knowledge, of it being an issue. Doesn't mean it won't.
Well, let me ask you this question, and this is just putting it out there. So everybody hears it, primary structures, we want to put the word livestock in. We want to put that as, because we're rural. We're not in the city, we're not, What are your thoughts of that? Farms and livestock, does that count as a primary structure? Then are we gonna start protecting the animals? I mean, how far are we gonna go?
Well, and the trend is to not have livestock all in barns
You get what I'm saying?
was a trend, and now there's more free range.
I know. But I just wanna say it, that's all I want to do, is put it out there. If we're good with it, we'll move on. Say there's no changes. Anything in queue for anybody? The next one Kathleen has is us with the capitalization.
So the next one was in W, so we say WCS and CWF are interchangeable, and we do that in this definition. I wondered if we should go back to the CWEF and say that it's interchangeable as
In
well.
WECS.
Yeah, but they're
We can do that when
reciprocal.
we get to it.
We already passed it.
What?
We already passed it because that was a C definition. I didn't put it back there, I just put it in. So it would be adding it to C
From what?
on page 4. 1, 5.
Makes sense.
Yes. Then the applicability, the ordinance governs the siting also of the meteorological towers as well, right?
Actually, the one that I have. That's what I remember years ago from- Yes, you're correct. We'll put meteorological towers. Very next.
And then under prohibition, we have a conglomeration to define terms here. Commercial wind energy conversion system. It's a commercial wind energy facility and wind energy conversion system, which are the two we said would be interchangeable, but now we come up with them. So maybe we just say commercial wind energy facility. There, maybe one.
Making difference in me.
I don't even, I just,
We use CWEF most often, so.
I'm very,
So,
next to solicitation.
yeah, just a couple of capitalized. So here we need a capitalized permit.
Moving down to section 6.
Yes, there's a couple of defined terms that need to capitalize, but so this was one that I thought rose to discussion level. So what we say is if they site a tower, this is the meteorological towers, that if they decide to move one, they need to just communicate it to the zoning administrator. I thought the process might need to be a little more robust than that. Shouldn't they have to resubmit the site plan that includes the tower? Or,
Wouldn't think so, I mean, it's not.
No, because all logical towers, just to, it's for their own perspective, 'cause somebody's down in Texas watching it.
yeah,
They need to know when
Right.
they turn the turbine on, when they turn it
Right.
off,
right.
what direction.
So we don't care if they get moved around. We're gonna cite it,
We
we're
have
gonna
no
approve
problem
where
with
they
them.
cite it the
We have
first
no problem with
time.
them moving it. The problem
They just need to
is
tell
if
us.
they add more or.
Okay,
Move it around, and obviously they have to have the land.
Right.
so, okay. All right, I just wanted to make sure that we were fine with that. Okay.
Catherine?
In that section, no.
Okay, move on to 7.
I guess this is my original question. So this is going to be called a siting approval application form, not a conditional use permit application form.
Form. Yes.
Because then on the next page, at the top of the next page, we call it a commercial wind energy facilities conditional use application. They're gonna submit 10 copies. So those aren't two different things, right? That's the same thing, or are they two different things?
Should be the same. Well, first they put an application in to the county zoning administrator, but then they have to give us the 10 copies of the CWEF.
So do you see what I was
I
asking?
do see.
Is that, what is this? Is it a, we're titling this a site approval application, then throughout, we're calling it a conditional use permit application. Seems like we should be consistent with what we're calling it, or just make them interchangeable, I guess.
Your thoughts, John? What was the reason why he did this?
I think the citing approval application wording comes from the way this ordinance was put together many years ago. I think the conditional use is something that Julie has introduced recently. And so when that was introduced, she probably didn't go through the whole thing and change all the places. So I would say that Kathy's saying is correct, they are the same thing. So
I think conditional
probably
use
using
permit is.
Probably the language of saying it's a conditional use application. So the first one probably should be changed. If you look at copies of this ordinance from 10 years ago and beyond, I don't think it's a conditional use. Why that is, it still is, well, it's still what it was. It wasn't identified that way.
We're gonna change
The citing approval application
to
to,
the CWEF, the conditional use application. It's not before. Thank you, Kathleen.
And then go to C. So, oh, wait,
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry. I'll go to C.
so in the application, we're asking for name, address, phone numbers of facility owners, operators, and then all property owners. Undefined what the property owners, I think, would mean owners of participating property, right? With participating property being the defined term. Because otherwise,
Makes sense.
we don't know which property owners.
Nope, I get it. Makes sense.
And then we talked about the business structure. You guys were, I didn't cross that comment out from my original, so you guys are fine with just saying business structures.
This property owner's gonna be,
participating program, and then respective business structure to stay the same.
yes.
Oh, I did have a comment on easement. So is that existing easements, existing and proposed?
Where you at?
The last sentence of C1, the applicant shall be required to include copies of all easements identifying ownership interest in the property. So is that existing easements, proposed easements, both?
I think it'd be both. Yeah, no?
I think that the intent is that all easements are placed when the application is submitted. A
then
complete application if you don't have all. You're supposed to identify where each tower is gonna go, where all the cabling is gonna go, where the substation will be, all those things, so. You need to have those easements in place in order to do that. So I don't think there's any easements that are gonna be acquired down the road. On the other hand, if something changed, I mean, the easements are supposed to run with the land, not unless all the party, unless the farm is torn down and the easements are vacated. Otherwise, they run with the land.
Okay, so it's fine to just leave it as is.
I mean, I just don't anticipate that there would be any easements going further ahead. On the other hand, if something did happen, I'm sure that in order for an easement to have any, to be valid, it has to be recorded in the contract. So, we have access to it at that location.
Do one.
Then on the next page, in section 4, protected lands is a defined term.
Same with One Tower.
So I wasn't sure if the 2,500 feet meant everything on the list that we've got in here, or just as it related to the scenic areas. That wasn't clear from reading it.
Probably depends on the punctuation. If you put a semicolon after protected lands, and they just scenic and natural areas.
So maybe if we just put an and after protected lands, and then it includes, we know it includes everything. That'll be the last thing in the series.
And the way to do it.
Agree with everybody.
That, the thing in 6 is kind of no harm, no foul. I just, it's wildlife is up to the US a lot of times. So, doesn't really matter. Everything else is an acronym, but it doesn't really matter. Yeah, so are we asking that the property owner has to put these in themselves, or does the applicant need to provide funding for those measures? And they're outlined by the applicant, are we clear that they're gonna pay for them?
It says right here above it, sunshine cover day or the cloud cover measures are measures to alleviate the effects of shadow flickers shall be outlined by the applicant. There shall be minimum landscape screening and or covers. Who pays for this? We do them. Go ahead, John.
I have another question on that section that I think is even more telling.
What's that?
Are you gonna believe what the wind energy facility tells you about shadow flicker? You're asking them to tell you where the shadow flicker is gonna be and how often. Are you gonna believe that? When it comes to some of these other things like noise and so forth, we hire somebody to come in and make those decisions. And they pay the cost of doing it. I would think we ought to have something similar for shadow.
That was a big issue when we first introduced the wind farms. Shadow flicker, people said they were getting sick. 3,740 feet they can extend to.
Right now, the ordinance that we have in place right now says there is no shadow flicker. We're changing it to allow shadow flicker. So I think, to me, if you're gonna allow it, have somebody determine.
So get an engineer to determine,
Absolutely.
and then it's mitigated if they can.
We hired the engineer to do that, and they pay the cost of the engineer. Just like they're doing with money for everything else.
Well, do you want to do then on D1 and then put in there that the engineer will?
Right now, our language, I didn't revise the language, but right now, we're saying that the facility owner that does all this. We need to change all that, we need to take that out.
So do you want to put our engineer?
An engineer hired by the county will make that assessment. Cost of the engineer will be invoiced to the facility owner.
Yeah, so underneath on ice impact, we use licensed professional engineer to determine that.
It's the same procedure. We don't, ice rollers, again, that's a very serious matter. That's why we want to hire an engineer to do that.
So can we just look that language, but I'm gonna just jump ahead to another question I have about the fees and the engineers. I wasn't clear when we say cost to be subtracted from the application fee, does that mean they pay for it, the fee is less, or we're taking it out of the fee that they pay, or what does that really mean?
We're taking the fee that they pay.
So the fee will include that.
There isn't enough money in the fee to cover the cost of that.
Yeah, because sometimes we say we're gonna bill on the cost of the engineer, and sometimes we say we subtract it out, so is,
No, here we're talking about the application, so I was in there a minute ago. You're right, it should be taken out the application fee.
okay.
Yes.
So just to make sure for shadow flicker, I got, instead of the applicant shall conduct, I'm gonna change it and match ice impact, where it's a licensed professional engineer hired by Iroquois County shall conduct, so on and so forth, the rest of that sentence, correct? And the cost, the cost will be invoiced to the facility owner. Do I have that sentence in, correct?
Now, to answer Kathy's question, it's always been understood, and we need to make it more clearly stated here, but it's been understood that the facility owner is the one that pays for any modifications or alterations. Lines in somebody's house or putting up some kind of landscape, whatever it would be. It's one of the reasons we said no shadow flicker allowed, because it's very difficult to have that factor into the matter. And to me, there's also one where shadow flicker occurs that really not been well documented or addressed. That is, there's places in this area, you're driving down the road, you'll get shadow flicker right on your car. You're not expecting that can startle you, and it could lead to an accident or some problem. I don't know that it's happened yet, I don't know that it's never happened yet, but I've driven many roads where all of a sudden there's shadow flicker, and it startles me a little bit. I'm accustomed to it, so it's not a problem. I guarantee you, it does happen.
So we have a road setback in here, I forget what it is, I think it's 1,000 feet, is that enough?
The winter time when the sun is low in the sky and it's coming up in the morning when people are going to work, that shadow flicker is starting to long way. I'm not sure how many feet it goes, but it's quite a ways. Well, last January, I believe it was, I went up to a meeting with Representative Bunting up in White. So I was driving up Highway 47. I got hit with shadow, this was about 8 o'clock in the morning, and I got hit with shadow 4 or 5 times. If you go up Highway 115 in Ford County, you have the same thing. And on Highway 9 going over to Bloomington, just numerous places at different times of the day where this occurs on the highway. We have people right now with GPS looking in the wrong place in the county, and we've had fatal accidents as a result of that because they're watching their GPS and they use stop signs and go. I don't know that there's been anything that attributed to shadow flicker yet. It's an issue.
Figure over 3/4 of a mile, you know, it'll extend to, so.
I don't know of any way that we can put anything in our ordinance to cover that. I mean, putting it, the way it's written here, our initial intent was that people's homes, they would not be in the shadow flicker. That's been documented in the military as a form of torture. They put prisoners in dark rooms and they have a light that they turn on and they turn it off, and they turn it on and they turn it off. That's shadow flicker. They say I can handle it subconsciously. That was the reason we had no shadow flicker.
Can we not have that?
Well, right now,
State saying no.
the specifications that the state is about to allow it. So that's why we have it written in here the way we do.
Well, I'm okay with landscape screens, but I'm not so comfortable with saying window coverings that you just like, why have windows if they have to be covered at all times?
Well, shadow flicker only occurs at certain times of the day. It's not a continuous thing. The problem is, it varies at the time of day or at the time of year. Morning, evening, whatever.
If you enjoyed your morning sun and now suddenly you have to have your window coverings down every morning, then
I agree. You saw my home, you see some pretty large windows, and I put them in that way on purpose, so I could enjoy the outdoors. I have drapes that I cover the windows on occasion, partly to keep temperature back in the winter out, but I have the option to look out the windows anytime I wish.
To help you, Catherine, how about if we did, the nurse shall have include landscape screens and or window coverings chosen by the affected? Paid by the facility owner?
I guess something like that might be all right. What you're gonna run into is the whole age-old question of what's reasonable and what is.
I know,
yeah,
it's on everything.
yeah, they'll say put a black blind up in your house, and who wants that?
I mean, and obviously it should be something that works together. A lot of people that have been in these areas have also had their television and radio and communications interfered with. And companies say, no, it isn't, and they say, yes, it is, and so where do you go from
Affects different people different ways.
Which part?
All individuals.
That'd be fine. It's a good one, that's great. I mean, this makes sense. Just put it at the end of the sentence, at the discretion of the owner, the property owner. Paid for by the facility owner.
there? If the property owner doesn't want it, that's, I guess it's fine.
That'd be their choice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that you can speak for the property owner, some might, some might not. Can't imagine anybody that says they like that kind of thing.
No.
Some might say, I can handle it.
Maybe it's acceptable to the property owner.
I think I like the first one better, acceptable to the property owner. If you get some property owner in there that has some outrageous demands,
Right.
Again, it's the
Kind of what I was
idea of what's,
hoping, yeah.
what is reasonable and what isn't reasonable. What's reasonable in one person's mind is not the same as the other.
Okay,
All right, let's move on from
All
that.
That's why we have judges.
Yeah, at the discretion of the project, paid for by the facility owner. All right, moving on to E. Probably that first sentence in E, you probably want to change, don't you? That'd be correct. As part of the application, the applicant shall provide an ice impact risk assessment formed by a licensed professional engineer. You probably want to change that then to as part of the application, the applicant shall
Application and ice impact, risk assessment performed by licensed professional,
we'd rather have our engineer do it then?
licensed professional engineer chosen by.
That's what this is saying.
hired and paid for by the Iroquois County.
Yeah. I would say if you say as part of the application, there shall be provided an ice impact risk assessment provided by a licensed professional engineer. I wouldn't necessarily put it in parentheses then, because you can just go on and say hired and paid for by Iroquois County. So forth. Just take, other than the applicant providing that, that's something that we would provide. Which means it gets back to, well, our engineer's gonna review the entire application. This is part of what he'd be looking at. That's really what it's saying.
That probably answers your question on the left-hand side, but Kathleen, I'm sorry, I just read that.
Yep,
That
yep,
was-
that was a general question we talked about earlier, does it come out of the fee or does it get invoiced? Because there are some places where we invoice directly.
Everything related to the application, yeah.
Comes out of the fee.
It's after that where we like the decommissioning, the study being done every 3 years, they're paying for that each time it happens.
That makes sense.
You've got now here the utility agreement. What? Oh, I'm sorry.
The relocated or removed, we're talking about the site plan, I thought just recited or removed from the site plan. A few more words, just clarify.
I think it's fine the way it is. That's, anyone else? Waiting for others to speak up.
Okay,
I think we really don't, we don't really care as long as it's pre-loaded, you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yep.
It's their piece of equipment. They want to resite somewhere else or does that make sense?
But it's all part of the process, it's not done later, it's done before.
As in, go further with this with me.
Because the study is being done during the site planning, the conditional use permit process, right? This isn't after the fact, is it? After construction, this is pre-approval?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. And then on utility agreement, just educate me, the interconnect agreement is
That's
just kind of
between-
generic. Yeah,
That's just between
Yeah,
them.
okay.
We have nothing with that.
fine.
And that's something that can change. If you had an interconnect agreement, Ameren, Commonwealth Edison came along and offered you more money, but just before you're ready to throw the switch, might go to my switch. So, but I think it's good that we have it in there.
Okay,
The other thing is, if you don't have it, and you don't get started, and don't get one year after you finish, you're not tear everything down right away either. And we don't wanna do that, that's the reason why we wanna have that, at least some evidence in there.
the next on the top of page 12 is also just a question, so in the process, if the applicant's going to make a change, there's a period of time that they have to make the change, because here we say failure to notify the zoning administrator shall be a default subject to immediate rejection of the application. So we say if any changes occur, do we give them 5 days, 10 days after a change occurs for them to notify us, or is there an indefinite period, or is it until we find out that it happened, or discover it ourselves?
Well,
or-
they didn't know whether that's, it tells immediately.
So immediately, like
Yeah, they're rejected.
5 minutes?
I get what you're
Yeah,
saying.
Yeah. I mean, 5 business days sounds reasonable to me, but,
48 hours sounds reasonable to me too.
okay.
You know, it's where, I'll take anyone else's thoughts.
The question I had on that paragraph was, that the right place to have it in the ordinance?
Yeah.
To me, it seemed to me that if we put it at the end of section on, that we're looking at, which is the application, it might be more appropriate there. It needs to be in there. It's
Right, no, I agree with that.
Where are you gonna put it?
Mhm. Did you have any thought on time frame?
Well, because I understand what you're saying, and I guess that's certainly something that we have to try and address. How are you gonna, if somebody makes a change and you're saying they've got 5 days to notify you, if they don't comply with that, how are you gonna know? If they're having a meeting, let's say we were a wind company, we're having this meeting, and okay, this is what we're gonna do, well, wait a minute, we gotta change and move this tower a little bit over here. If we didn't let you know about it, if we didn't let the county know about it right away, who's gonna say, well, you went beyond 5 days? If you had that meeting 10 days ago, right? Who's gonna prove that you didn't comply with that?
So this is information provided in 7C1 and 2. And 7C1 and 2 is additional information. It's the ownership. And
Well, we
the
said somewhere where
project
they have 30
summary.
days to notify us on the change in ownership.
Right.
And so it's the ownership, and then it's the project summary, description of the project, generating capacity, number of wind towers. So that's what we're saying they have to tell us about.
Right, I'm just saying if we should have a meeting, let's say on the number of towers, whatever the case might be, how are you gonna prove that they didn't notify you within 5 days or 10 days, whatever it is? If they have the,
I know what you're saying.
if they have the application here, presented to the committee, and the committee's ready to approve it, and they say, well, wait a minute, we're gonna change this, well, wait a minute, you can't do that. Or the committee already approves this and sends it to the board for final approval, and they come in and say, well, we're changing this or that. I think that's what this is talking about. Because I don't personally see that there's any way you can prove that they didn't notify you within a certain period of time.
Well, we're saying
Notifying
immediate.
a change in ownership is something they can determine and prove, because that's something that requires legal action in order to get it done. So you can obtain documents that prove they did or didn't. But if they're just having a meeting of their own and they're gonna make a change in the number of towers or move 100 feet one way or the other, I don't think we can determine that they didn't notify us timely. That would be my thinking.
So they just need to notify us when, and if we find out about it, then we can immediately reject.
Well, as I was saying, if we approve the application and the zoning committee and send it, we're gonna send it to the county board. The county board gets it, and we're taking the vote, and I say, all in favor, say aye, or whatever. Somebody must, wait a minute, we're changing this or that. Can't do that.
Right.
I think that's what this is saying. That makes sense? That's my interpretation of it.
Okay.
Just inserted prior to approval of the application. Would that take care of it?
The final approval is given by the county board.
No, I understand that.
Either by the zoning board of appeals as well as the zoning commission. Board of appeals takes testimony, to make a recommendation. Okay. I think it's something that's gonna be, if you went to a court of law, it's very difficult to stand up, but having it in there is an indication to the applicant that we wanna know about any changes.
I'll just make one last pitch here. I mean, we say that they need to give us, their ownership information, they need to give us a definition of the project. They've given us an application, now they're deciding they want to change something. I feel like saying that if you're gonna change any of that, you need to tell us within 2 days, 5 days, 10 days, whatever it is. It's not unreasonable to say for those important things, you need to tell us.
I just don't like John said, how about you just say prior to approval by the county board for the application.
I think it depends on what we wanna do. If we want to allow them to make changes, I can certainly see where something might occur that require a change. You don't have, it doesn't, but it's changed, Might suddenly find that they can put 2 more wind towers and they sign up 2 more people or whatever. Come up with any number of different changes. And the maker decided.
Well, and then they should incorporate that into the plan.
Right, but if they have their plan together and somehow, like, just using the example I'm saying, you have your, put together, you're gonna put in 50 wind towers. all of a sudden you get a phone call from some landowner that says, hey, you know, I've been thinking about this thing, and I think I've changed my mind, I think I'd like to go, can you fit me in? They go back and say, well, can we do this? Okay, yeah, let's do it, we'll let the county know. That's the kind of thing I can see change. Change in ownership, we've already covered that somewhere else. We've got 30 days to notify us about it. Say right now. And that applies at any time. That applies after the whole thing has been approved. At any time during the life of the wind farm, there's a change in ownership. We will be notified within 30 days. We have obviously a need to communicate and let them be in contact with the ownership of their wind farm for reasons. So anytime that change in ownership occurs, we need to notify. Here we're talking about a change in the application.
Okay, well, I mean, I think what ends up happening is we can decide whether it's immediate or 5 days or 10 days is, I mean, as soon as we find out about it, we can terminate, reject the application.
We can put a time in there if you like. I'm not saying we shouldn't or can't. I'm just saying it's going to be very difficult to prove it. And if somebody, because if they make it, like I said, they make a change today, they don't let you know until 10 days from now how you can find out that they did that. And you get supposed to notify in 5 days, how are you going to know that?
Yeah, because they're not gonna be honest with you and say that they, oh, no, we're going on for 3 days.
Well, the
Within
way
the five-
right
within the
now
5 day period.
is, it's up to us to figure out if they ever made a change, and then we can terminate. We're not requiring them to tell us if there's a change.
Well, no one actually says if they're
So
notified.
But whenever, okay. Right,
If somebody comes in with an application and it gets approved, and they're going to build it that way, and if they don't, then
okay,
that's why we
Okay.
have inspectors, that's why we other things in there to see them posting that. Same way if you're building a house, you come in here to the building department with your plans, and you get a building permit. So, the inspector comes out, electric, plumbing, and the general inspector, if he's got the plans, and if you're not building it the way the plan says, then I can approve it. Right there. And it's happened before, and it will happen again in the future, that they'll write taxes, and they have to be changed to conform with what the plan says.
but the mediation here is that we can reject the application, by then we've already approved the application. So, I don't know.
County Board of, if the zoning board of appeals approves something, doesn't mean that they can't still make change. The zoning committee approves something, doesn't mean that they can't still make changes. They have to notify us ahead of time. Once the county board approves it, we apply for the building permit. Back all over again.
That was my point. This is all before construction.
Correct.
This is all, yeah. So,
Go ahead.
I think it matters. One of the things that matters, I'm fine with that.
Well, that's okay.
I mean, I'm new to this, so.
You can put it, all I'm saying is if you put it in there, it's very difficult to enforce. Not gonna be able to say. Most of us know 5 days and the period is 10 days. It's a default, it's done. I mean, approve that.
It's the same thing, saying, it's just like you said with me for 48 hours, they can do it for 49 hours, so I won't know. I get, and I totally get where you're headed with that, appreciate you thinking about it like that, because I agree with you, but
Okay. I'm not gonna die on the sword on that one.
No, it's just, it's something that, all right,
It's, there's things in here that, other things in here that we may not be able to enforce completely.
I know.
You know, we're asking to be done, and we're hoping people will do that. We had the applicant come in and make his presentation,
I know.
get your eyes and ears open.
Yes. And it looks like on page 13, maybe where I picked this up, that we either added or deleted some sections and didn't change the letters on them. So we actually have two H's and I's in here.
You're right. Okay.
It goes HI. Because I was looking back at something that referred to them and
Giant jumps a J. Go back to H, we're looking at
that
like.
HI.
I think you're fine with and or on the
Yeah,
village.
because
I'm
it
fine
makes
with
it
that.
sound like it's only one of the above,
Right.
but like could be any of them. And these other things are just little, consequential.
Right away. Did you have any questions on the ROW?
No.
Okay.
I have a question. Page 13, paragraph 1, paragraph C talks about providing financial assurance. Page 14, this is under section 2, subparagraph H, talks about providing financial assurance. Simplification here.
Well, one has to do with, I think there was something different.
Damage to the
One's
roads.
infrastructure and the other one's that they have a weight requirement.
In order to get over the weight permit, you have to pay the funds to the county for that, and that's considered, that's should be covered by it. We're talking about any damage that's done by their during construction, maintenance, or decommissioning, at any time during the life of the vehicle, any damage that's done to the roads have to be repaired. There needs to be some financial assurance provided to do that. We have an instance in this county over in the Sheldon Wind Farm where that wasn't done and was illegal action taken, which resulted in us getting some money, or the township getting money to repair some of the road. It needs to be done up front. It's part of the road agreement. I'm just wondering why we have to say it twice. Probably even ask the same question in the second one. Well, why do we have paragraph, section 1, and why do we have section 2? Two of them be combined into one. There's only one road agreement that's put in place for every wind farm. There's not two road agreements.
So the township should be addressing the weight limits and the,
Road agreement should be an agreement with the county that's put together.
yeah.
Townships and the county highway engineer all work together. Separate.
If I was gonna get rid of, when I get rid of C, I would keep H. Thoughts?
Wait, I don't have C and H on that.
Okay,
She is
C,
on page 13.
Oh, I see. Well, I think what John was saying is there shouldn't be two agreements here. Because one is for the road infrastructure in general, and the other one is for the weight permitting. And if the township's involved in the first one, why aren't they just incorporating that into their agreement? Is that right?
To me, the one under section 1 is one that really covers what the road agreements are. It might be something to sit down with the highway engineer, or Harwood, and make sure that he's in agreement with it as well, before we finalize this ordinance. He's the one that's gonna put that together, and he's the one that's gonna have to administer that road agreement. He's the party to the road agreement, he's the primary person putting that road agreement in place. The county board doesn't really have anything to do with that. When we did the wind farm up in Oaks Grove Township, Joe Moore spent quite a bit of time with the wind company up there hammering out the road agreements. We didn't have anything to do with that part of it.
No, but we told the applicant they have to go do that as part of their application. Yeah, so I think that's
Absolutely, I'm
what,
not saying that at all. I'm just saying that maybe the highway engineer should be involved in our discussion right now on this section, or this part of it. Maybe some things in here that he doesn't think are right or need to be modified, I don't know. But he's the one that has to do it, so I think it would make sense to have his blessing. We can go ahead and put it together the way we think it should be, and then take it to him and ask him to review it, I guess, ways of doing it. I just don't understand why we have to have one that talks about weight permits and another agreement that talks about. Should all be part of the one agreement that you put together before you start the project. You know you're gonna have overload weights. You're putting a wind farm in, you got cranes coming in here that are overloading. And some of your other equipment, so you know that ahead of time. You know what roads you're gonna use ahead of time, all those permits, all, you should be part of the one agreement.
we disagree. On the, I think you should get rid of one.
Once they get their cranes put together and assembled too on the job, they're not gonna disassemble them for each wind territory, then they're gonna move that sucker down the road to the next location.
Agreed.
I don't know.
so
All the weight of it, but that's a huge machine.
what is your thinking then on this?
Agree to disagree. Because I think that it's nothing, if you want to keep both of them in there, if you want to, that's up to you. Reading C, reading H. I think H is probably better written than C. That's just my thought. We can move on from that. We can have, at this moment, it's like, let's say the county engineer look it over, like John just said, and let him agree or
Yeah, I
disagree
mean, I
and
think
change
the
it.
real question is do we need these two
I don't think we do.
components separately? And it's not just it's not just the financial assurance part, it's, there's certain things we need for just the use of the roads, and then another thing, there's a whole other section related to.
I also don't think it's not gonna hurt to keep them both in there. So I know it's up to you what you wanna do, but
Well, it doesn't hurt to keep both about the financial insurance in there either. I mean, it's just a matter of doing to simplify it and make it as easily understood by everybody involved over here as well as in the applicants and all that. That's just.
Well,
how about this doesn't really make a difference to a certain degree, because it's the same thing.
yeah,
Just talk about it today and we can all agree and understand on it. 5 years from now, there'll be different county board members.
Agreed.
And they may not understand everything that understood today.
Right, moving on. You got, number 4. John, did you have anything else for one on any further?
Easier to- One of the questions that I had about both of those as well. It gets back to what we talked about earlier and some of the other things here, and that is identifying people or things. Page 13 under B, we say something is approved by the Iroquois County Highway Engineer and effective road township engineer. But then we go away from that and we just start talking about the county engineer. At this time, we don't have anybody with the title of engineer in this county. We might, especially if we ever get something going on our rivers and so forth, we might, depends on the term used to describe somebody involved there, but it could be an engineer. There's going to be engineering work needed there. The highway engineer may not want to do that. We talk about, like I said, you go down through this thing and now you're talking about county engineer in a number of different places. All the way through on page 14, you're talking about county engineer. County engineer is authorized to require so forth.
So then we're in 1B where we say Iroquois County Highway Engineer, we should just delete highway? Is that what you're saying?
Well, you can do that if you want, or you can just use it, say the county, and say the county highway engineer and all the other places where you're referring to. I'm talking about now primarily on pages 13 and 14. There's numerous places in both where you're talking about engineer. On page 14 up at the top, you say it's the Iroquois County engineer. And you go down a couple paragraphs down there towards the bottom, and you just say, in number 4 down there, you talk about the county engineer. So we're not consistent, is what I'm saying.
I actually think number 4 should be here, Clay County. Highway engineer. Right. Especially now that we now have another engineer. Hiring Scott. Right.
I think another engineer. Like I said, if we get something going, nothing and so forth, maybe an engineer there. And in the end, they call him a surveyor, but he's still an engineer.
Engineers, Iroquois County Highway Engineer.
But we gotta watch that though, because we also have another county engineer that checks, I mean, but I would think for the public road agreements, that would all be Iroquois County Highway Engineer. Really fast, we're here for this today to do it, so let's just do it right. Yeah, be Iroquois County Highway Engineer. We got E, should be the Iroquois County Highway Engineer. We got C on 2C. Clay County Highway Engineer. Same thing with D.
I have another question on page 14. 2E,
Easement on private property will be the sole responsibility of facility owner.
why would it be done? Talking about road agreements.
And specifically the weight permit.
Why do we need that? Is that confusing?
I think that takes all legal aspects of it off the county then. We left it in there. Even though we've got the road agreements, you gotta go through the county engineer if they need an easement. That would be between the private property owner, whoever, and the, like going in the fields. We've talked about this 2 or 3 times.
You have an easement that you give to the wind company to put a turbine on your property. That easement is gonna include the access road.
Should.
Why do we have to have it here in the road agreement? That's my question.
Is it possible that, I mean, like when they develop the mill screw, sometimes they put a temporary wrap thing in because when they're hauling in the blades and that, they can't make that corner. Maybe it was maybe that wasn't the guy that was gonna have to windmill put on place.
That would be part of the road agreement with the county.
Oh, okay.
You know, take it out, take it out. I mean, it will be,
I think it's there for that reason.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that it might, somebody that didn't have a windmill put on their place, but we need to cut the corner here to
Mhm.
go through your property to get this windmill over to your neighbor's place or whatever.
Yeah, I clearly this was, these details are from an engineer somewhere that decided that these were the things that were important, so I wouldn't take it out unless we knew that it was,
That's the reason why I said maybe we should have the way.
yeah. Just take a look at
Give it approval, because he's the one that has to execute all this and do it.
I'm fine with that too.
But, I mean,
I've already wrote on the other page to
what Steve is saying is correct.
take it to the county engineer.
I guess that's fine. Depends on what road they're coming down, whether they need to do something. Some of the roads are pretty narrow, but they're still a road right of way. Right of way is awfully wide. I'm not sure what they did up there.
Well, I don't know, but I mean, I went through with it when they were erecting it in their places. They made quite a radius turn for the cornfield or bean field or whatever. And it might be, when they went around the corner, it might not affect, that guy might not have a windmill, but it might be.
When they haul the plates down Highway 24, they don't have any problem making the turn in Gilman.
Well, sometimes they do.
Well, it takes a long time, and they take a little bit, but they still make it. If that's what it's for, that's fine. I didn't remember it for that purpose, and it just struck me as why in the world
Yeah.
should our road agreement have anything to do with easements on private property? Okay. And the other thing I got on page 14 is the financial assurance. Saying H, I think we're saying it okay. Page 13 and under C, what we talked about before, whenever we were saying about the financials. And even on page 14, if I'm not mistaken, we're saying when we get to decommissioning, we're identifying the form that the cashier check made payable to the county. Again, I doubt that it would happen this way, but a man we can verify that recently the owner of the dog came in and paid his fine in pennies.
I heard.
Pennies on his desk. I don't know if they're gonna come in with $1 million or whatever it would be in that way, but it doesn't hurt to say it should be in a cashier check made payable to the county.
I'm good with that.
I think that's a change that should be made.
Yeah, throughout.
I would hope somebody wouldn't bring pennies in. I don't expect to see it though. Finds that. I will, I'll take this county, to the county engineer after we're done today. That part over. Moving on to Kathleen.
In section 4, on that same page, we say that county engineer may choose to require either remediation. I thought maybe we should say is authorized.
As authorized.
Or is authorized to require either a remainder, so he can, we're allowing him to do either.
I'm fine with that. Three spots never will be there in Wake County. Sullivan, right?
I didn't know so yet, because I didn't actually touch
Yeah, just would be the
on.
number 4 is satisfaction of the Wake County engineer, Fire County engineer after that. You would a little further, another county engineer. I think it's just nothing to finish in that sentence. Number 5 there is, actually it says further down, approved by the county highway engineer. Make sure that's Iroquois County. I'll take care of that up.
And 4, making those changes as well, consider facilities, changing it to CWEF, and adding transport.
They both do, they're making the same thing. Kathleen, what do you think? John?
Say that again.
At the beginning, Kathleen wants to change it to CWF, or it's, I apologize, I just put what you wrote down. Any road damage caused by the transportation of the CWEF equipment, or do you want to put the facilities equipment? I know, I just put it out there. It was a good catch though. I don't care either way.
Section 4, shouldn't that be, is authorized to collect fees instead of are, or not?
Iroquois County Highway Engineer is authorized to require.
No, it's the last sentence on that page. I'm sorry, I was on the rest further up.
Yeah, I
Iroquois
thought,
County is authorized. Sorry, I'm just reading. Go ahead, Kathleen, I'm sorry.
So,
I prefer the and/or,
and/or collect fees.
and/or authorized to collect fees.
That's already been said. So the county engineer is authorized to require either remediation and/or collect fees. So we say, that's why I thought when we said may choose to either, or they're authorized, that we just say is authorized to do those next two things. So authorized to require remediation, repair, and/or to collect fees.
Anybody else? Yes. It means the same thing.
I thought I read that somewhere, there was a list somewhere else that included transport, and I thought we should make them,
Definitely know that.
yeah.
Over at the top of page 15, the continuation of that paragraph 4, and says that the owner shall submit a draft form of said financial assurance. What is a draft form of financial assurance?
All right, before we go there, you're good with the other page we just changed? Yeah,
I'm
leave it,
not-
sorry,
I'm
Scott.
not-
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of using their
Tedious work, but.
THEIR. Oh, that's not.
So let's finish this up for a minute. Where we at now? This 15, I'm gonna read the top sentence, go to it. The road repair upon completion of the commercial CWEF facility and/or collect fees for overweight and/or oversized loads. Road permits, I'm sorry. Furthermore, finance insurance and amount to be established by the Iroquois County Highway Engineer. Fixed.
Doesn't really matter. It sounded like it was a fixed fee.
I believe it is a fixed fee.
Well, we're giving the county engineer authorization to
Correct.
decide on the fee.
If the group don't matter to me. Can't tell you what you want to do,
It doesn't, it's fine.
so that's okay. But then that makes sense to be the Iroquois County Highway Engineer. I know, I figured. Completed. To the county engineer's reasonable satisfaction. I agree with that one too. Yeah, definitely. Then we're moving on to the next page. John has
This is, yeah.
facility owners shall submit a draft of the financial insurance.
So I'm guessing this is leftover language from, if you were allowing for a bond to be in place, you'd want to see the bond agreement. But since we're requesting a cashier's check, I don't know if this makes sense.
We never accepted that. We never accepted it.
Never accepted a bond,
Not since I've been here.
and so that I don't know what it means or why it was
When
there.
the Sheldon Wind Farm was put in, that was an ordinance that was adopted in 2006 or something like that. And that allowed the bond. Maybe it's from that, I don't know, but I'm just curious what that means. Someone came up to me and said, well, what am I supposed to do here? What does that mean? I said, I don't know. Anybody else know? But it's a draft form of financial assurance. Our financial insurance we're requiring is cash and escrow. That's pretty simple. I don't understand understand what a draft form is in the first place. And other than maybe a proposal or something of that sort. I don't know how you propose to submit cash and escrow or the cashier's check, it's pretty clearly spelled out.
Thoughts? Take it out? Change it?
Well, I would take it out, I don't see what it's doing there.
So from facility owner, move the last sentence.
Some of these things in the past, when we modified this ordinance, we had specific things in mind that we thought needed to be changed, and we focused on those, some of these little things like we're looking at now. We didn't really go through them, quite as closely as we are.
I'm going to recommend that when we get to the end of section 7 here, that we take a 5-minute bio break.
Thank you, Amanda. Let's go back up to page 14H. Provide financial assurance in the form of sufficient cash and escrow.
No, that's cashier's check payable to.
We did, what you guys want me to do?
Yeah, that was John's,
So in the form of cashier's check.
payable to Iroquois County.
Not having anything with the escrow at all, just a cashier's check.
Yes. Moving that last sentence. All right, move on to number 5. Questions? Are you still want to change that? Kathleen?
Which, no, that was just a question.
Okay.
I think we've since answered, because I was trying to figure out the relationship between this and the building permit for quite a while.
And then we just see it's KLM. Following the application approval, the applicant is eligible to apply for a CWDF building permit. You've got here following the conditional use permit approval. I think in the beginning we established, we called it. What you wrote down. I'll make sure though. Definition. Done. You want to change the conditional use permit? You want to do application approval?
Which paragraph are you on?
Building permits.
Bottom of page 15.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I jumped to his.
Yeah, I've been doing that too.
I guess that's fine.
I got one more question for you then. We did on the application, we changed it to this, just like Amanda said, the CWEF conditional use application. You want to change it following the CWEF conditional use application approval.
Be consistent throughout.
Please.
not what it all means, but someone else might not. So be consistent throughout.
Got it back in the bottom of it, cashier's check, okay. Move on to page 16. Any other questions before on page 15?
Changes at the top on the. If you're gonna say, you're gonna go from permitted to allowed, then you need to say shall not be allowed. Legal language in this state, shall means it is not, and may gives you permission to do it. Or make a choice. So we need to say shall not be allowed if we're going to change the word permit.
Well, wouldn't that apply also to are not permitted? Are not allowed, is that,
Shall not be, shall and shall not be are what legal languages of state statutes.
okay. But that would apply even if we
The
left.
county
it
shall
permitted.
not do this. They do this.
Okay,
We see that all the time, and we have to be, realize that even though when we were little kids and your mother said you shall not play outside in the rain, you thought, well, that might mean we could anyway.
it depends on the consequence.
Fortunately, in this state, state statute, the language is shall
Okay.
and may.
Okay,
Two
You're
words there.
You agree, Kathleen? Would do the
Sure.
same thing for except permitted, same thing.
Sure.
She has, and
I think we were missing some words in
yes,
what is an LP. Or is it shall?
Where are you at now?
Permit expiration,
Shall no longer be valid would be more correct.
okay.
Each attorney reviews these things and he gets ready to go to court. He'll be looking at
Jim's favorites. He's good at Googling all that stuff.
He won't be here.
So
I know.
shall we take a 5-minute bio break?
We need to.
Hey.
Can we?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'll be right back. I drank a couple cups of coffee post that.
All right, so I'll get a motion to recess. Can I get a second? All in favor, say aye.
Hey.
All right, here we go. We're good.
Yeah.